A lot of us walk through the days and we can be reactive, we can be anxious, we can be scared, we can be having panic attacks, we can be texting things that we wish we hadn't texted, saying things to coworkers that we wish we hadn't said, always going in our heads about things that happened in the past or things that can happen in the future. We're constantly just kind of in turmoil, right? You probably identify with that. And what I want you to know is that you can actually change a lot of that without having to do a ton of work, which is truly, truly exciting. What I want you to know, and we're not going to go into any kind of deep science lesson here, I promise you, but just to give you a little bit of backdrop, is that your nervous system, and we all have one, and that's kind of the common denominator between all of us. We all share a nervous system that is similar. Now, it reacts to different things, different cues, but in its function, there is a sameness that we all have, kind of a linking factor, which I think is pretty cool. And the nervous system at any time of the day is giving your brain information that your brain can make three stories out of. Basically, we live within the context of three different kinds of stories. And depending on the story that you have, that your nervous system has fed up to your brain in any given moment, will determine how you're feeling, how you're interacting, the choices that you're making, how you're behaving, basically determining everything. So what are these three stories, you might be asking yourself? The nervous system, and again, I'm not going to go into any large science or lecture here, but to keep it simple, the nervous system has three states, and I will give them easy names. We have regulated, right? Where I am right now, or maybe you are watching this movie, or this video, right? So regulated is connected, we're creative, we're resourceful, we're resourced, we're curious, we're open. We actually have the ability to be in the present moment. We can be with others, we can give, we can receive. It's a wonderful place to be, is regulation, all right? We'll call that connected. And then we have sympathetic, which is fight or flight. We all know that. We have a tremendous surge of energy, which can cause us to feel anxious, to run, to avoid. You know that feeling when you just want to avoid something and you don't want to think about it, you don't want to look at it, you don't want to go near it, you don't want to deal with it, avoidance. Or we can go straight into it. We can attack, we can be angry, we can do all kinds of things. Most of you know that is fight or flight. And then we have the last state, which I'm going to call immobilized. And when we're immobilized, we basically kind of go into this collapsed place where a lot of us might identify feeling really alone and helpless, powerless, sad, depressed, lost, like no one can ever find us, like nothing is ever going to get better, just really, truly just hopeless. Really, a lot of people, myself included, really want to numb out, just not be me, not be here, not be present. And we're going to call that shut down, all right? At any given moment in time, and we all go in and out of these states all day long, going up and down all day long, but if we really go into a state, then we're really going to feel the characteristics of that state rather than just kind of flavors of it throughout the day. And so at any given moment, whatever state we're in, that 80% of information goes up to the brain, and the brain takes all of that information, and it creates a story, one of those three stories. And so again, depending on which state you are in, is the story that your brain will create for you depending on the context, right? And whichever state you're in, there's only three. Your brain will create a story. There's only three stories it can create. Now, of course, it will be in relation to the context of your story, the people in your story, what's going on, but it will have a flavor of those three states. Let's take an example. Let's say, for example, that I'm late for a flight that I have to catch for a big presentation, and it's incredibly important to me or my boss, and if I don't make it, I'm really scared something bad's going to happen. In a fight or flight state, I'm going to be anxious, I'm going to be trying to figure out like the flights I can take, and oh my gosh, and what's my boss going to say, and oh my gosh, I don't know what to do, and frenzied and frazzled and trying to figure things out, and just like this huge amount of energy, just like anxious and like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? And a shutdown or collapsed place is going to be more hopeless. It's going to be more like, F it. Like, what's the point? I'm not going to get there in time. I'm going to get fired, or something really bad's going to happen. I don't even care. I don't even care. I just want to go home. I just want to go home and go to sleep, or I want to go to the bar, or I just want to go, right? Now, in a connected or a regulated state, which is really what we're going for here, it would be, how can I work with this? Do I need to call some other airlines? Do I need to look into some different flights? Do I need to ask someone for help? Do I need to call my boss and let them know what's happening? Do I How can I problem solve here? How can I be creative? And throughout all of that, and that connected state is this sense of connection, of security, of being centered and grounded, and just, it's okay. Like, I'm okay. I might not make this flight. I might not make this presentation, but I'm going to be okay. And that's a connected state. You see the flavor of these three different stories, and there's only three people. There's only three stories. And it's so important because we give such credence to our brains and the stories and the thinking that we have. We believe the thinking. And I want you to know that the thinking is coming from the state that your nervous system is in. What we would say state before story. State, the nervous system state that you're in before the story that your brain creates. Your brain is only creating and working with 20% of its own information, only 20%. That's why it's so important to understand what story you're in, because if you can understand what story you're in, then you can identify what state you're in. And if you can identify what state you're in and it's not regulation, then the only thing that you need to focus on is getting regulated. And getting regulated is a whole nother video, a whole series of videos that I could do. But I will say that we each have our own ways of being regulated. Some of them may superimpose some of the things that work for me might work for you. I will say that breathing just at first in the first couple minutes is always really helpful. Lack of oxygen to the brain signals danger. Deep diaphragmatic breathing is really, really helpful. I will say for some people it's meditating or hiking or just running an errand, going around the block, moving, doing some exercises, calling a friend, cleaning, dancing, moving their movement is a really, really big one. Tapping. There's all kinds of ways that we can get regulated, and the more that you experiment and try, the more that you will see as your story changes, oh wow, I'm getting into a regulated space. So you don't need a therapist or me or someone else to tell you what state you're in. Your story will tell you. And as you begin to get more into what we would call threshold or regulation in that connected space, you'll begin to feel more safe. You'll begin to feel more clear. The anxiety will begin to go away. The fear, all that energy coursing through your body will begin to go. And you'll begin to be like, oh, wow, whew, I can breathe and I can like feel and think clearly, right? Because the problem or whatever caused you to go into a certain state might not have changed. And it's really important that you know that. Whatever is there is still going to be there, but the way that you view it, the way that you perceive it will now be different. A good exercise that you can try over the next 2 or 3 days is as you go about the day, as the events take you throughout the day, is to stop and ask yourself, what story am I in? What story am I in? And I promise you the story that you're in will have one of those three flavors of those three distinct states. And if you're not in a connected state, your story, what you're thinking, the story, because we're great storytellers. That's what we are. That's what our brains do. It tells stories. And if you can be or get into a connected, regulated story, your life will improve. And if you can practice discerning and knowing when you're not connected and when you don't have a connected story running for you, then you can begin to shift that. And that alone will change so much of your life. I cannot even tell you. So just identifying those three simple stories. Which one am I in? And if I'm not in a regulated space, how can I go and get regulated? And you will know as you begin to travel into what we call regulation and connection, you will know, because not only will your body feel different and you will feel different in your feelings and your emotions, but your story will be different. I hope that you have found this helpful. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. If you would like me to do more videos around this type of information with our physiology or nervous system or somatics, let me know. It's a passion of mine. I also plan to do lots more videos on all of the big ones: fear, working with fear, anxiety, mental cycling, mental looping, caring what others think, procrastination, people-pleasing, boundaries, all the things that we all still need to work on. It's good to see you, and that's it. Talk to you soon.